their genomes get mixed together, and so sometimes, and then we also apply mutations, and so yeah, a lot of times they can just sort of have a lethal genome that's not viable. Yeah.
Okay, Sinister Porpoise is just got a...
Is it written in Python? No, it's written in C++. It's called MADE, Modular Agent-Based Evolver. It's written in C++, but we use Python for a lot of the experimental control or the visualizations or a lot of the tools that we have for it.
Okay. And Sinister asks, is the source code available?
Yeah, everything is open source. It's free.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Wow. And
so, can you use the code to make like an idiot?
Look like an idiot.
Yeah, but the problem is he's so dense and he wouldn't even realize that you... Well, it wouldn't... It just doesn't... You know, it's like a... It's kind of like a brick wall response from that man. But yeah, you could, and maybe some people have.
So now, the organisms that you've created, you said originally all they could do was reproduce. Obviously,
yeah. So they sort of, normally they have like their genomes are usually empty, but they have some sort of mechanism of copying themselves.
Have they evolved something to give them locomotion?
These do, the ones that I'm talking about, and that just depends on how they're programmed. So like a lot. So for instance, the organisms that I used for my dissertation research, they didn't move, but these organisms do because they have this harvesting task, right? Because that's their challenge. They're programmed with brains that basically also include a sensor, and some of their genomic encoding is used to give them the ability to move. But we don't hard code that into them. So basically, it's something they can evolve. It's like, but when they start, they don't have. When they start, they're just what we call a base replicator. They basically can copy themselves, but the rest of their genome is typically just blank instructions. And so then they have to evolve the ability to sense and move and however they go about solving it. So that's why it's fun for us, because it's fun to see that they actually do it.
Do you manipulate the environment?
Yes, that's what we do. Okay. So we manipulate the environment and see how they respond to the manipulation. So for instance, if in the environment there's no switch cost, they will just eat everything. Because typically how they reproduce is through what's called a tournament. We just take 2 random organisms and we keep the one with the high score, then we pick another organism, keep the one with the high score, pick another one, keep the one with the high score, and then whoever is left at the end of however big the tournament is, say it's like 5, then that's the one that would get to reproduce. Or in this case, that's the one that would get to choose a mate. So they're literally just dropped in, and they're trying to eat as many berries as possible, so that they have a high score, so that they have the highest probability of reproducing and going on to the next generation. And so what happens is if we they have some pressure to keep the berries balanced, right? Because if they eat a lot of red ones, they'll be mostly blue ones. If they eat all the blue ones, they'll be mostly red ones. And so if we introduce the switch cost, they have to figure that out.
Okay.
And so the other thing that they have to do is, like I said, they have to pick a mate. So if they win a tournament, then they have a preference. One of their genes is just a site that we read, and it determines like what their mating preference is. If it's a 0, it's they mate randomly, and then if it's whatever number it is, because it's just we have discrete numbers, like if it's a 1 or a 2, that just tells us which berry they prefer. So they either prefer like that or berries.
So some organisms like one, and some organisms like the other.
Yeah. And if you win, and if you have the highest score in the tournament, then you get to choose a mate. And to do that, you're going to have another tournament, except you're going to pick the organism with the highest score for the berry you prefer. So if you prefer red, you're going to pick the organism that's the reddest. If you prefer blue, you're going to pick the organism that's the bluest. So they have to now balance what we call the natural selection pressure, like thinking about they have to survive and thrive well enough in the environment to get to reproduce. So that's what the score is. And the part is well enough to, earn a mating opportunity, basically. And then you have to balance that against being attracted to whatever organism is doing the selection. So it's a balance between sexual selection.
Okay. So have they evolved sexes?
So they don't really evolve. We call them mating types because they're sort of they're not hard coded into like roles or anything. So for instance, we call sometimes for shorthands we call the first parent the mom, but really we call it parent 1. But sometimes we say mom. But you can be the mom 1 round and the dad the next or whatever. So so it's really more about the traits that they evolve to solve this. So for instance, there's a wrinkle, and the wrinkle is so the first organism to win a tournament based on its highest score becomes parent 1. There's then another tournament where to get to be into so there's these things in nature they're called leks, and a lek is basically like a mating arena, and like say for like birds maybe the females go to this lekking area and the males are like staking out little territories and they're competing with each other, and so it's a space where the female will get to evaluate sort of a lot of different males quickly and choose whichever one they prefer. And so we create like a lek for these digital organisms. And the way we do that is we create the second tournament, but you have to win one of the first foraging tournaments in the tournament, so the winners only tournament.
Okay.
So that way you have to be a good forager to like earn your way into the and so then in this winners only tournament, you pick the one that has the highest score for the berry you prefer. And then we have parent 1 and now we have parent 2. And then they go into the mating chamber to make a baby, but their fecundity, in other words, how likely their mating is to result in an actual offspring, is determined by what we call their shape. And their shape is just basically a number between -1 and +1. And the idea is that it represents like perfectly convex and perfectly concave. And the idea is that if they're both like -1, they're the same shape and they won't have any contact with each other. If they're both +1, they'll be like this and they'll slide past each other. And so in those cases, they have like 0 mating success. But if one is -1 and one is +1, then they always have like 100% chance of reproducing because they have perfectly complementary shapes.
Are any of them zeros, or are they all?
Yeah, they can be a 0. If they're 0, they're flat, and they typically have like a intermediate level of reproduction, so maybe like a 50% chance.
Would that be kind of like a third sex?
We don't actually see it typically. When do we see? Sometimes they don't do. What do I have to do to make them not do the shape? Really, it doesn't, because when they do that, they're all the same thing.
Okay.
So it's sort of like they're the same shape, so they're
asexual.
Yeah, it gets a little weird, but that doesn't happen because typically,